the natural reality cannot be described. It's like a mystery. In normal terms, there's no words that can express what the natural reality is like. And the other reality is the separate reality. The separate reality is an illusory state that the self lives in. The self, or the I, or what I call me. Me lives in an illusory reality. It grows up, it dreams this reality, it lives in this dreamt reality. But as far as the self or the me is concerned, that reality is absolutely real. I am real, I am a real person. This is what arises. I am a real person. I live in a real story. I was born, I will live, and I will die. And that's my story, the story of me. And I have learned that I have free will and choice to influence that story on my own. Also, that story has things arise in that story which I believe are true. They are real for me. What's real for me in that story is good and evil, above and below, inner and outer. Life is happening. What's real for me is that everything that is happening in my life is separate to me. I'm in here, and life is out there happening to me. And even the feelings that I have in my own body are somehow happening to a me in here. There's something that's happening to me. So everything, the experience for me is that everything is separate. Most people in the world wouldn't necessarily say what I'm saying here, but that's the experience of the separate reality. The experience is of separation. So the self or the me never sees the sky or a tree or another person as they naturally are. It sees the sky or a tree or another person as something that is separate. So in that dream reality, that dreamt reality, which seems absolutely real, everything is dual, everything is subject-object. I'm the subject, and everything else that's happening is the object. So there's a constant living in that state of separation. And in some way or other, that is unsatisfactory, it's disturbing, it's unsatisfactory, it's not satisfying, it's dissatisfying. That state of being separate from everyone. Somehow it's out there, I'm in here, everything else is out there, happening to me. And so what arises is, for a lot of people, for most people, they live in that and try and do the best they can with it. So what you see in the world is people trying to satisfy a state of lack, loss, a state of nothing's quite good enough, but I'm going to make it as good as I can, with lots of money, lots of power, lots of women, which I always prefer.
What about for
and all different ways in which the me tries to satisfy a sense of loss. It may not be recognised as a sense of loss, but subtly it's like me goes around with a shopping basket all the time in its life, and there's a hole in the bottom of it, but it can never be. Now, for some people, there's a sense some people are sensitive about the feeling that this isn't it, this is not it, this is not really satisfying, this is not fulfilling. So I must learn how to find that fulfillment, because I've been brought up to learn how to do things. This is all in the dream story. All in the dream story, the me grows up and comes to believe that it has to learn how to make its life better. So, also, I now have to find fulfillment through learning what to do, and how I can be worthy of what I really long for. So I could become a Christian or a Buddhist, I could join a religion, and then I would get a list of things to do, how to become a good Christian. Or I could go to a therapist, now these days, very intelligent way of feeling better about myself. I could become an integrated person. But to become an integrated person, I also get a list. Forgive your mother. Accept your feelings. Honour your anger. Or I could go to a teacher of enlightenment. You know, enlightenment sounds really good. This could be the answer to mine. So I go to an enlightenment teacher, and a teacher will tell me to meditate, be peaceful, sing mantras, self-inquire, or pay me a lot of money. So there's always a list of things, and there's always the sense that in some way or other, me, the self, has to change, become better, become more open, become more peaceful, whatever it is. But somewhere in all of that teaching is the idea that me has to change. Me has to become worthy of fulfillment in some way or other. And so what we're sharing here is the possibility that that separate reality, which seems to be real to the individual, is actually absolutely illusory. It's just an energy. It's energy which is free and boundless, which has taken up the form of separation. It pretends to be separate, and within the body there's an energy that seems to have a self in it, there's a self that arises. And so what we're proposing here is that that whole creation of the self, that whole identity, that whole idea of having free will and choice, that whole idea of being in a story which can be made better is totally and utterly illusory. It's just completely illusory. It's a dream which has no reality of any kind at all. And the other thing that we're going to share together, verbally together, well, first of all we're going to share the way that me seems to take form and how it arises and the experience of being me and what that's like. And also at the same time we're sharing the possibility that every attempt that me makes to make itself story better or to find fulfillment is wonderfully, absolutely, completely futile. Because, and the reason that may be discovered or recognised is that the me reality, the experience of me, is in a circle. It's in a finite circle. It can't get out of that circle because the only place that me can exist, the only place that me can arise and happen is in separation. In fact, me is separation. Me is separation. Me is seeking wholeness. Me can do nothing else other than be separate and seek that which it longs for. And so it may arise the recognition that that whole idea that me can find fulfillment is utterly futile. And then what seems to come out of that, what seems to come out possibly of that communication, but within the whole, is a recognition that actually really what we're talking about is purely energetic. It's got nothing to do with understanding something and then moving to another place of understanding. It's actually energetic. Because as far as the secret is concerned, separation is a contracted energy. It's just energy which is boundless, appearing to be contracted, and in some way or other, when there's an opening to the possibility that what me is looking for it can never find, and that there's a possibility that there's something beyond me, there's something beyond belief, there's something beyond understanding, then it's possible that that contracted energy can simply blossom, open out, and melt back into the whole.
I have this medical question.
Medical?
Yeah, I was wondering, when there's this contraction, does it also have an effect on the body in the sense? Yeah, it does.
Absolutely.
In the sense that, for example, there's this condition that's called essential hypertension.
Yeah.
That there's no cause officially, and I was wondering whether that's the
separation.
That's the separation that is causing that, the contraction.
Yeah.
Could you say?
I mean, in a way, everybody that, well, but in simple terms, people that live in that dream contraction are in a state of tension.
Right.
Not necessarily recognisable. Often there's times when something being done releases that tension, but there is an anxiety, even a very subtle anxiety about living in a separate reality, because everything that's separate can seem to be threatened.
So this hypertension could be caused by the contraction?
Well,
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
Only in part.
Of course.
Neurosis, all that.
And like psychosomatic stuff too?
Yeah, absolutely, everything. There's very much that comes out of this illusory sense of being suffering. Apparently.
You can't mention that anywhere.
Sorry?
It's pity you can't mention that anywhere. I mean...
No, basically, separation is not something that's recognised in what we call the world, because the moment of becoming separate is very quickly hidden in the brain. Most people, I know two people who actually remember becoming separate.
Really?
But it's very rare that that could be remembered, because it's the greatest trauma there is. It's worse than losing your lover, and that's really bad.
And were they very young then, those two?
Oh well, yeah. It happens when the child, in childhood, when the brain is sophisticated enough. This has been discovered by neuroscience. The brain is sophisticated enough to construct a separate identity. Suddenly that happens, and there's what arises with that separation is an awareness of another, and then you have two.
Because usually the memory doesn't go back that far.
Well, no, it doesn't want to. Oh no, it's like a bad motor car accident, you can't remember.
Yes.
The awareness is that, so at the moment of contraction, there's a sudden self-awareness.
Okay.
Or self-consciousness. Now that awareness, let's keep it as awareness. Consciousness is really the same. Consciousness is just another word for knowing or awareness.
So
but it doesn't matter about that, it's all words. Yeah. So that, from then on, there is something in here that is self-aware and aware of other things. So that's the way in which the self stays there through the function of awareness. Awareness is a function which keeps me in place.
But awareness is there before the me.
No, awareness is there with the me. There's no awareness before, because awareness is part of the dream story. It has nothing to do with the natural reality. So it's an artificial function. It's a function which is used to keep the me in place. I am aware of the wall, so for awareness to function, it has to have something to be aware of. So there's awareness in here of the wall, or of feeling bad, or having a headache. Or sitting on a chair. So sitting on a seat in this room, if there's a sense of a me, there would be an awareness of sitting on a chair.
What about an animal? Is an animal not aware?
There's nothing, as far as this is concerned, nothing else has awareness. There's an assimilation in the brain of what's happening in a dog or whatever else, but in an animal there's a very simple brain which has not the capability of abstracting a sense of a separate identity, therefore there's no awareness. But there is obviously a functioning in the brain of what's happening and a response to it. But that doesn't need awareness.
You can say that an animal has no awareness because animals don't suffer.
Well, there isn't a me that suffers in an animal, but animals suffer. But that's, you're now back to when me is no more, suffering still happens. But it's now happening in space. It's not happening to a person. So, you know, this isn't about the end of suffering. It's about the end of me suffering. So those two are immeasurably apart.
This is the natural reality.
There is only the natural reality, and what arises in it is the illusion of a separate reality.
The chair is a natural reality.
Absolutely. There isn't anything that isn't a natural reality. But within that can arise the dream of the chair being separate. That's the separate reality. The separate reality is illusory, totally and utterly illusory. But for the me, it feels real. The dilemma for me is that it lives in what it thinks is real. I'm real, you're real. You're over there, I'm over here. So now we have to have a relationship, because you are separate from this. Bang. And we all know what happens then. In the natural reality, there isn't anyone there that's part. There's anyone here and anyone there.
But you say, this is real, but it's not.
No, it's only real in the separate reality. It's real and unreal. Everything in the natural reality is real and unreal. That's the mystery. We can't see what that's like. To be real and unreal, how can it be?
It's a paradox.
It's a paradox. This message doesn't make sense.
You said a lot of illusions and the non-reality. And can you tell us about the real being? The real.
No. There's only one illusion. The only one illusion there is that seems to arise is in the human form, the illusion of separation. The only illusion there is the illusion of separation. Everything else, nothing else in that sense can be described. It's unknowable. The only thing that can be known is the illusion of separation, because there's somebody in it that can know it. And that's the problem, because the me that's in it that knows it thinks it's real. Everything else is simply what it is. You could say it's singular, it's oneness, it's wholeness, it's unconditional love. It has no duality, it has no opposites. It doesn't recognise morals, ethics. We're now sort of trying to describe something you'll never get hold of. You'll never get hold of it. It's completely and utterly unbounded. And it's also this.
Thank you.
Could one say that in the moment of the collapse of the wrong self or self, is a kind of capitulation of the mind to accept that it's unknowable, it's something which is not...
Yes, that sort of follows, but in a way. But
So it kind of, it's not necessary to know.
No, obviously not anymore. Oh no, the whole idea of having to know is completely evacuates from this. Because me sort of has a huge investment in knowing, as we see in the world today. You know. And especially to do with me, it wants to know because it thinks knowledge is power and power is being in control.
So you could say, if it makes no sense, it's allowed to make nonsense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. No question, but something to share. The other day there was the recognition, it is like a dance between the lover and the beloved, and at the same time they are one.
Yeah, everything is only that, yeah.
Yeah. Only thing I can say.
Yeah. Well, it can't be described. The absolute relative, the formless form, the empty form.
That's right, yes.
To me, as the feeling, as the idea that it can do something, it can do something about this contraction, because there are moments in which this contraction is stronger, and then a thought pop up, and it seems that then contraction gets lighter.
Yeah,
so it's the idea that the me has done something.
Absolutely.
About it.
That's what it dreams it has. It can choose to do something which will make the contraction lighter. I mean, it doesn't actually do anything at all because there is no me. But a lighter or stronger contraction is still a contraction. So it's only that the separation is slightly lighter. So what?
A free therapy.
Yeah.
Whatever is pointed, whatever is pointed, if I point something, it's nonsense.
Well, in a sort of sense, everything is nonsense. Point or not. Nothing matters because there is nothing happening.
So if I am to be aware that we are not thinking or the feeling of the body makes no...
No, it doesn't. You're still only in the separate experience of being aware. You can be in the separate experience of being aware that there's no me to be separate. It's still separation. Because essentially this is something that's energetic, not out of any awareness or realization. I mean, I know, I know a lot of people who are absolutely clear about what's being said here. They're absolutely clear. They could write it out in 2 or 3 sentences, but there's still a me there that now is absolutely clear about it. Clarity isn't liberation.
Can we take it a bit further? It seems like every thought belongs to the me. Every thought belongs to the me. Is that true?
Well, a thought comes out of no thing because no thing is the source of everything. So thought comes out of no thing, but then the me, the great owner of everything, is like a great big sticky bun. When the thought comes and seems to arrive, and the me, if there's a me in there, it will take ownership of it. This is my thought. It's about me, and it's really important because I am. So then there's an energy set up that goes on.
There are thoughts that are born from the me.
No,
No?
No, they're not born from anything. They come out of nothing. They speak about me. They can seem to speak about me, but they're not born from me. Me is a non-event.
So thoughts come anyway, isn't it?
Can the me exist without any support?
Well, absolutely. Me is a contracted energy out of which, me is contracted energy appearing to be an energetic selfness, an identity. It doesn't need me to support it. The only thing that supports it and keeps it going is awareness. the function of being aware of. Awareness is the accomplice of separation. Oh, go on.
Even the awareness of being the awareness.
There can be an awareness of being. There can even be an awareness of an awareness of an awareness of being. And there can even be...
I have two questions. One is about intuition. So, is there something like that?
Yes.
That's like a connection to the real world?
Well, there isn't a real world.
Or is it just another illusion of the me? Is it something connected?
No, not at all. Intuition is simply an energy, an intuitive energy is all there is what there is. All the time there's a me, that intuitive energy can be there, but it's fairly veiled by the construct or the contracted energy of me. When the contracted energy is no more, then the intuition just whee blossoms. It becomes very, because it hasn't got anything judging the intuitive feeling about something. It doesn't have any. It doesn't have a third party, yeah, called me, saying, "Well, I don't know about that. That's not right." Yeah. That's not there anymore. There's just intuition.
So I'm not closer to it if I feel intuitive about something also.
So I didn't get that.
I'm not closer to...
Me will never be closer to boundlessness, because the me is boundlessness pretending to be me.
And another question about reincarnation. Is there
No, obviously the reincarnation is simply another part of the dream, because there isn't anything to reincarnate.
Yeah.
There isn't anyone, so who's going to reincarnate?
So it's just this happening again and again?
Oh, no, it's not happening again and again. All there is what is and is not. Now, the only thing about that that's interesting is that for me, what seems to happen does seem to happen again and again, because me thinks it knows what's happening. So when it happens again, it thinks it's the same thing. So it lives in a really boring world. Because when it comes out of its door to go to work in the morning, it thinks it knows the road it's in. Oh, I know this road already. It doesn't. The road is wholeness. The road is boundlessness roading. It's a miracle. It's a bloody miracle. But the me can't see any of that. It lives in this dreary, dusty old...
Is the collapsing of the me so overwhelming?
It can be very cool. It can be very cool, actually. It seems to vary a lot. Like for some people, the final collapse of me is hardly noticeable in a sense. Like, oh, it's not there anymore. It's very cool. For other people, it can be quite powerful. Wow. But then, after that big wow, it becomes a quieter wow. Well, Claire always says there's the big wow, wow, which then naturally becomes a quieter wow, more subtle and quiet.
And it becomes more and more subtle.
Yeah, it does, deeper and deeper.
There's a quality of deepness.
Yeah.
It's also practice.
So a lot of people that this has happened to, and it's happened to quite a lot of people, wouldn't necessarily say that they could say, oh, the wall is real and unreal in that sense. But strangely enough, that's what it is. it simply wouldn't necessarily be recognised in the mind or communicated in that way. But actually, strangely enough, that's what happened. Suddenly the wall is back to what it naturally is.
And after it happened, it's not important anymore. It's not.
Well, nothing is important anymore. No.
Well, it's not a question. I just want to say this. I don't know why it's there. To me, for some reason, I can't tell you why, but it's so great to me that you can understand this message and completely be clear about it, and liberation, so-called, doesn't happen. And then be somebody you've never heard of, be walking down the street, and it could be all it's like a great equalizer or something. Somehow it's close to my heart. I don't know why.
No, because I think what I think is lovely, is gorgeous about that is it knocks the established idea, the old idea you have to learn how to do it and understand it, it just knocks that all. It's wild, and it doesn't discriminate. It's not about being better or higher. And it's got nothing to do with intelligence. That's a relief for you.
Excuse me.
She's leaving, it's got nothing to do with intelligence. Oh no, definitely not.
Intelligence left the building. You went to church.
Is it possible to believe that when there is no me, that this brain is much more slower?
Not necessarily. What would happen is that thinking slows down because it can't find anybody to speak to anymore. So it just arises out of no thing, like everything else, and just floats around and goes back home again. Apparently. And so, because that sense when you're me that there's one particular thought that's really frightening, so you hear it or you get hold of it, and there's an energetic sort of trafficking that goes on with that thought. It keeps on repeating itself like a CD. So that becomes faster and faster and faster. It's like it becomes very busy. The mind becomes very busy with that and other thoughts. So that all tends to slow down. Thinking still happens, of course, but it's no longer relevant.
And that all actions you slow down?
Well, action just happens. nobody takes action.
Yeah, but
Nobody ever did take action, but in the dream, the me thinks it takes action. But actually, there's just action that's being taken. It doesn't necessarily slow down. In some instances, it could get much quicker. The actual action.
But every action has its own speed, so to say.
Yes, but that's what is.
And there's nobody to control this.
No, there never was. The dream is that you control things. There's no such thing as something controlled. There's only an appearance of it. It's free fall.
Other question is about this neutrality. What's this? It keeps things, so to say, in distance.
Well, it is simply that everything is obviously neutral because everything comes out of no thing. So whatever appears to be happening is out of nothing. So it has absolutely no meaning or purpose of any kind in the natural reality. Therefore, in a sense, it's completely neutral. It's not going anywhere, hasn't come where, it's not trying to get anywhere. So in that sense, it's completely neutral. In the world of me, in the separate world, there's huge meaning, and there seems to be huge meaning and purpose to everything. So you get dramatic mountains and valleys, especially emotional ones. But Christ said, I shall level the mountains and raise the valleys. So what you get is a sort of neutrality, but in which everything is incredibly alive. But it no longer has a particular meaning or drama or importance. The whole sense of importance or significance simply collapses.
Thank you.
I mean, you watch the news every day. If you watch the news, especially the American news, there's always dramatic music. So people, and then they say, oh, this is the news from Belgium, or something. And that is really important. And then you see this guy on the screen, he looks incredibly serious. And everybody's ready to go, it's just bullshit. So what?
So one kills another one.
Sorry?
So one is killing another one. Who is killing who?
Well,
and what is happening that one kills another? That's not happening. So what happens then?
Oh, nothing's happening. There isn't anything that ever happens. So there isn't what's happening then. But there isn't anything that's killing anything. Because that which is illusory, this is a separate sense of illusion, is wholeness appearing to be illusory. So wholeness wouldn't necessarily want, and doesn't have any intention anyway, so wouldn't choose to kill separation, because separation is an absolute expression of wholeness. So there's nothing killing anybody. There's no wars going on. Me might have a battle with all of this because it doesn't like it. Me is fighting a battle, but it's fighting a battle with nothing.
So battles can happen only in the being.
Apparently. So somebody here would not.
Sorry to know. How many people, or can you give an estimate
Yesterday was 380.
So when liberation is happening, apparently, do you still have conversations? Are you having still conversations?
No, you just lie flat on the ground. Do nothing, people come and feed you. No, it's totally normal, but there isn't anything that changes at all, except a sense of being a separate individual. There's no more there. And functioning goes on happening. You don't need the me to drive a car, or cook risotto, or write a symphony, or analyze proteins. Those things all happen. There is no need for me. So functioning goes on as it did before.
There's still preferences, I believe.
Built within the DNA of the physiology prior to birth, there are preferences, and that is life happening. There isn't any need for me for there to be preferences.
Sounds like the same, but totally different.
Fucking German.
Huh?
Right? It's the same and totally different. Yeah, it's exactly the same and totally different. Do you want the mic, George? You can talk loud, you'll know.
I was thinking before you were saying something, and I was thinking when you were saying how it might be very cool or might be very dramatic and hardly ever noticed it. And I was thinking, I hope it's big here because then I won't know it. And then I just thought, I'll never know it anyway.
No, you won't ever know. No, you never know. No, nobody ever knows the liberation of that.
Just sitting here in the room, how could it do all the sounds that are taking place?
Why would it? Why would there be anything to do if all there is a
The birds singing, it couldn't do it if it tried.
No.
So it never did do any.
No.